Welcome back to Viewpoint. My next guest is James Zogby, President and CEO of Zogby International, a leading public opinion and market research firm. He's one of the most successful predictors and trend spotters in the business and has been dubbed the Maverick Predictor by the Washington Post. He polled for Reuters news agency, NBC News, MSNBC, among others, and is the author of a new book. Random House has published it, called The Way We'll Be, the Zogby Report on the Transformation of the American Dream. Thanks for joining us, John.
Hey.
The book is about the changes that are taking place in America and about the future trends. It sort of looks at where we are now and tries to see where we're going to be. I'd actually like to start with, as you see it, where we are, and then look at how we got here. You talk about. One of the things you talk about is that what defines us as Americans are the common values we share, and one of them essentially is our sense of freedom, our sense of a people of rights. Mm-hmm. Define that, if you would, just a little bit more, what that means as you see it.
You go back to the immigrant experience, the colonial experience. That's mainly why people came here. I mean, certainly there were those who came for economic reasons. There have been refugees over the years. But what America came to define right from the very beginning was liberation, the option to improve a new world, and a new world that was based not on being locked into a social class by a feudal tradition, but actually by coming here and, you're on your own. It's you versus the elements, you and your community. And while hardly a perfect society, even from the early days, but certainly right up until now, we've just been defined by an attitude, not by cuisine, not by anything else like other countries might be, but it is, what the Statue of Liberty represents. It's liberation, it's freedom, it's individualism, and so on.
That's the backdrop. How's that been transformed? Or how is it being transformed?
Because what has happened is we have been able to turn in American history from a notion of freedom to a notion of an empire built on freedom. That's how we settled from East Coast to West Coast. But then in the 20th century, America becomes a colossus. It becomes the behemoth. And then it becomes a force to define freedom and force freedom in the rest of the world, and there's a backlash. And in addition to that, it's very much a country that took advantage of the technological transformations of the Industrial Revolution and was very much built then on expanding its economic empire. And we've reached a turning point just in the last few years and projecting into the future, where the empire has kind of run out. It's reached its limits. And the American people, beginning in the 1970s, but certainly now have transformed into recognizing, hey, we live in a world of limits. We live in a world where we can't dictate and define everything. We can't control our own lives and our own needs. And so people are beginning to back off. Whether they've achieved and they've said, well, look, I don't want to just keep up this rat race, or they haven't achieved or even fallen backward and are now saying there's got to be more to life.
You said one theme in the book is the issue of economic constraints causing a redefinition, and you describe a scene at a pizza place in your hometown. Neighborhood transformed, jobs transformed, but people settling into not looking backward with regret, but looking forward with a kind of an acceptance and a changed definition of who they are. Well, describe that a little bit more.
Jim, 27% of U.S. adults are working at a job that pays less than a previous job. When I first began to track this in the early 90s, that group was very much composed. That was the angry white voter, if you remember. Mm-hmm. And what were they angry about? They were slipping. They were falling backward. And what were they saying? They were saying, I want to restore what's been. I want to get back to where I was. Now, here we are a decade and a half later. We're not going to get back to where we were. And so if we're not going to do that, we make the most out of what we have. And so we shop at Costco, and we shop at Walmart, and we, instead of and advertisers have to learn this. Don't sell fantasy, and don't sell sizzle, and don't sell the lottery. Sell instead where you are and where people are right now, and actually where they're going to be.
That was fascinating. When I read in the book this issue about advertisers, I started paying attention to the themes, and the themes are very different than the ones we grew up with.
They're catching on.
Yeah.
The advertisers understand it. They're always the place to look, in fact. And frankly, there's a new reality. Whether it's the middle-aged or the baby boomer generation, where more and more people are saying, well, look, I'm going to retire, but I'm going to retire from my job. And then I probably have 30 more years of my life to go. I want to do something, you know, something that's real, that fulfills my life. 30 years is a long time to go living in good health.
Let's go right to that, because that was another theme. There's a couple here that I want to talk about, and that's that looking inward, away from material goals. You see that as a trend?
It's data-based, and it's been growing. Ever since 1998, I started polling on the American dream and wanting to know how people define it. And I've seen the numbers steadily growing of those who say it's not about attaining material goods. It's not what we grew up with or what we've learned about, that America is the desire to acquire. You know, whether it's the suburbs, a house with a small lawn in front of it or in back. But instead now, upwards of 40%, well, 38 to 42% are consistently telling us the American dream is about living a fulfilling life. It's something spiritual. And then you see the behavior shift that takes place with that attitude, and you say, it's here, and it's very, very real.